The world looks to California to answer the hard questions, for redemption, to introduce the unfamiliar, to be resilient. Because California bounces back, holds us accountable, values who we are, remains vigilant, defies those in our way, and stands for community. Here on the West Coast, we're at the center of it all. Los Angeles Times, the state of what's next.
there are a lot of things that I've learned over the years in business, but trust is really the most important aspect because it teaches you to rely upon the other people that you're working with. And City National Bank has been an integral part of our team. They are that key financial advisor that has helped us be successful at Foley Family Wines.
Good evening and welcome to the Los Angeles Times Food Bowl Forum, Red Drinks for Juneteenth, presented by City National Bank. I'm your host, Clint Schaff with the Los Angeles Times. Tonight's conversation is part of our annual LA Times Food Bowl series in support of the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. LA Regional Food Bank collects food from charitable organizations and other groups and distributes to people in need every day. With the help of 30,000 volunteers, LA Food Bank serves nearly 1 million people per month. Here's more on their important work.
The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank's mission is to mobilize every resource to fight hunger throughout our community. Even before the pandemic, the problem in Los Angeles County was urgent, with more than 2 million people not having enough food to feed themselves or their families. Since the outbreak, the need for food assistance has nearly doubled. We're now seeing people who have never needed help before depending on the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. Every week, we're providing nutritious food through emergency food distributions so that people throughout our community can prepare well-balanced meals. These drive-through distributions provide large quantities of food to thousands of individuals and families who have been laid off or reduced to part-time work only. At each distribution event, we're helping 1,000 to 7,500 households. Because the food bank collects millions of pounds of food that's been generously donated, and because tens of thousands of volunteers have stepped up, every dollar that is donated is enough to provide enough food for 4 meals. With your caring support, we're not going to rest until the number of people in Los Angeles County who go hungry is 0.
Thank you, LA Food Bank. For more information and to donate, please visit lafoodbank.org. Now I'd like to introduce you to my LA Times colleague, reporter Donovan X. Ramsey, who will moderate a conversation with our special guests. Please welcome Donovan. Hey, Donovan.
Hey, Clint. Thanks so much.
No doubt.
We're here because in 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed more than 3 million enslaved people living in the Confederate States. However, it was not until 2 years later, on June 19, 1865, that the news reached Texas, the deepest part of the South. Juneteenth, a portmanteau of June and 19th, is the holiday celebrating that day. It started in Texas, but it's celebrated today all across the country. Celebrations take all kinds of form, but today we're here to talk about something very close to my heart, very close to the guest's heart, and that is food, red drinks, and hall. So let's start by introducing the guest. First up, we have Ray Anthony Barrett. Ray Anthony Barrett is a visual artist and chef. Since 2018, Mr. Barrett's pop-up Cinqué has been devoted to tracing the evolution of soul food from California to its West African origins. His projects have been featured at the Underground Museum and Descartes. His work has been profiled in Hyperallergic, Compound Butter, and the Los Angeles Times. Next up, we have Kevin Bludso. Bludso is a chef and TV personality from Compton, California. In 2018, he opened Bloodso's Barbecue, his small takeout barbecue stand in Compton. It has since grown into an international empire with the flagship restaurant, Bludso's Bar and Q in Hollywood. He is the judge of the hit Netflix show, The American Barbecue Showdown. His first cookbook, the Bludso Family Cookbook, will hit bookstores next spring. A rising star in the culinary world, John Cleveland is head chef and co-owner of the fine dining restaurant Post and Bean. Along with his wife, Ronnie, he took over the reins of this 10-year-old restaurant in 2019 with the goal of continuing its legacy as one of South LA's most revered, award-winning Black-owned restaurants. And finally, we have last but not least, Kim Prince, who is a third-generation restaurateur with hot chicken coursing through her veins. At the age of 8, she recalls being the pickle bucket girl at her family's restaurant in Nashville, where the Prince family is recognized for originating Nashville hot chicken. In 2016, Kim Prince started her Hotville chicken pop-up restaurant here in LA. In 2019, she opened a brick and mortar with partner Greg Doolin of Doolin's Soul Food Restaurant. All right, now we got the intros out of the way. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
What's up?
Hey.
Happy to be here.
So you all may not know this, but I did some research, and your menus all have two things in common. One, you all got cornbread, and next, y'all have red drinks in common. Cinqué serves Bissap, Post and Beam has a Hurricane, Hotville has Kool-Aid, and Bludso's has a soda called Cheer Wine, which I've never had. So this question is to all of you, starting with Ray. Tell me how each of you found red drink on your menu. So Ray, what's the story there?
So I first had BSAP in 2010 when I was an art student traveling in Dakar, Senegal. And it was delicious, but very, very, very sweet. And the only time I've ever had it in the United States is around the corner from the Studio Museum in Harlem. There's a couple Senegalese restaurants, and it's just as sweet. And I remember while I was dining at one of those restaurants, I was like, I just wish I had some like sparkling water so I could just dilute it a little bit. And that inspired me to put it on my menu, not only because, well, most of my dishes or menus during my pop-ups feature some sort of West African connection, whether it's a West African dish like yassa poulet or mafe, but I always serve BSAP, and my version is, so I make a syrup out of, I steep hibiscus tea, and orange blossom water with a lot of ginger, and I steep that together, and then I pour it in over ice and crush mint leaves and pour in some sparkling water. And it's a really refreshing summer dish or summer drink. And you know, the bubbles from the effervescence really carry that ginger and the orange blossom water and the mint to the palate.
I want some now. And John, tell me about this hurricane.
Well, our hurricane at Post and Beam existed well before I got here. And I think that it wasn't really, I guess, it's more of a customer-driven decision than it was a conscious decision on our culinary program. So we have a big crowd that really enjoys New Orleans low country type cuisine, and hurricanes is a huge drink. And one of the things we had going on was gumbo and Fat Tuesday, and everybody, we started serving hurricanes for Fat Tuesday. So we just actually kept that tradition and put it on our menu because it was so popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And Kim, what about Hotville and this Kool-Aid? Now, you know, I love a good Kool-Aid, and the flavor that we drink is red, right? Tell me about that.
Right. That's right. Well, I went back to my childhood, Nashville hot chicken, and something really cool and refreshing to bring it down. So it's just 3 simple ingredients: some red flavored powdered concoction with water and a whole lot of sugar. We always say at Hotville that it ain't right till it tastes like a popsicle. So when people walk in and say, well, what's that red drink? We say it's red drink. We don't give it a flavor or anything like that. People sample it and they try it and they do refills on it. And we have it, we bottle it as well. So it's a really good red flavored drink.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Kevin, so tell me, because from what I've read, cheer wine is traditional when it comes to Texas and Juneteenth. Is that why you have it on Bloodso's menu?
No, we got it on there because I couldn't find knee high. That's what I like, old school knee high strawberry soda from back in the day. But the cherry wine, my manager actually found that, and it's the closest that he got to knee-high strawberry soda. You know, you can't have barbecue without strawberry soda. You damn sure can't have Juneteenth without strawberry soda. So that was the closest one that I had. That rough strawberry soda that's rough and sweet. You know, make you hiccup when you first drink it, but it's real good. You know, so I'm like Karen. That just took me back, and I got to have strawberry soda, especially on Juneteenth.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I joked a little bit earlier with Kim about, red being a flavor, but red drink, of course, is in the name of this forum. And that's because it does have some significance to Black history throughout the diaspora, also special significance to the Juneteenth holiday. Ray, do you want to talk a little bit about that connection between that sort of triangle from West Africa to Texas and now to Los Angeles?
I don't know. I mean, well, that BSAP drink it's the hibiscus tea is really common, and I think the significance for the Juneteenth holiday is because red drinks and red food is to honor the blood of the people who struggled, who were enslaved, and not only the people who didn't make it, but the people who devoted their blood, sweat, and tears to tilling the soil under the project of manifest destiny and white supremacy. That's my take on it.
Well, I think that's well said. Yeah, I couldn't have said any better myself. Now, Kevin, I want to move to you next because, your family has very deep roots in Texas, and people associate, of course, with Galveston being sort of the home of Juneteenth. Do you have any special memories from the holiday growing up?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Compton, but I used to go to Texas every summer. And I just remember being 9 and going down. I would always get down there. LA, school gets out much later. So I would always get out around the 15th, and I would be in Texas for Juneteenth. So my granny, my mom, my dad, all of them are from Texas. So a lot of times we used to have our family reunion on Juneteenth. So I just remember, just people getting together and family reunion, watermelon, strawberry soda, good barbecue. I don't have, nothing but good memories of it. But I also have, like I said, at the reunion, they would always give a history of Juneteenth because we have family in Galveston, Texas. It would be a history lesson, which was cool. And then they start clowning because I got cousins from Louisiana, and they used to say, we the ones had to come tell you Texas food, y'all was free. So to this day, they still talk about that. So, Juneteenth is incredible, and it's incredible that today it became a federal holiday. It's like I said, it ain't on time, but it ain't never late. So it happened today. So this is a very good day for all of us today, and I'm happy to be here. And Bloodso's opened up in 08, D, not no 18. What the hell?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2008. Okay, let me put some respect on that decade.
Hey.
All right.
I'm just messing with you.
John, tell me, do you have any special connection to the holiday?
I don't have any special connection. We didn't do big celebrations. I grew up in Oakland, in California, and we didn't per se have a special celebration that we did on Juneteenth like Kevin's family, but I've definitely got the history lesson. I respect the holiday, and I'm really grateful that they actually made it a national holiday. It's recognized now, so it's a good day for us, man.
Absolutely. Now, Ray, you have been putting on Juneteenth pop-ups through Cinqué. Can you tell me a bit about what those are exactly and what inspired the idea?
I think it started with a conversation between Min Fan of Porridge and Puffs and now Fina Kite, who is the LA Times Restaurant of the Year. I'm very happy for her. I was talking to her about the history, and Juneteenth was coming up, and I told her I wanted to do something because I also didn't celebrate it growing up. I heard about it on the black radio station, Hot 103 Jams, KPRS, Kansas City, Missouri. But it was just like background because our family didn't really celebrate it. So it was only until I started cooking and doing research into developing the menus that I came across the significance of the holiday. And I wanted to, you know, create a space to open up that conversation about this delayed emancipation of enslaved African Americans. And so it was a really great experience. I invited Tessa of All Day Baby to do the dessert. Men did a beautiful appetizer, and I did the three courses of greens, cornbread, Hoppin' John, and I think I did yassa poulet.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, we've like talked about that amazing menu. We've talked about gumbo and low country food and hot chicken and barbecue. And that makes me think sort of more broadly about the general topic of Black foodways, the ways that we prepare and really consume food. I want to ask everyone this question, but I want to start with Kim. What do you think of when you think of Black food? What really sets it apart from other cuisine?
Thanks, Donovan. I think that, you know, Black foods is world food. I feel that, you know, because we have a influence on all kinds of different cuisines out there, I kind of see a lot of different foods as Black food to me personally. But growing up in the South, it's the black-eyed peas on January 1st and the pot of gumbo on January 1st and cornbread and pot liquor and you know, you got your different greens, turnip greens. So all those things that I grew up calling soul food, we didn't call it Black food, we called it soul food. And it was those dishes that we consumed every day, and it was considered healthy, and it still is. We did our portions moderately, but it was a good, healthy serving of love that was put on the plate. And the family got together, and that's what I always associate with what you're calling Black food, but I call it soul food.
Yeah.
Fried chicken, liver and onions, right? Oxtails. Those are all those good foods that we call Black foods. Let's not forget the barbecues, because you got to have something on the pit, whether it's pork, whether it's spare ribs, or it could be beef ribs, it could be beef tips, didn't matter. Now, Black folks, we were known for taking any type of food, whether it was roots, seedlings, fruit, meats, bone, grind it, take the marrow out, and make something of it. That's soul food to me, because we can take any item and create a dish out of it. And I love the fact that, you know, when you go to the continent of Africa, you have earth farms where the roots of all kinds of different spices can be found, and they trace their roots all the way back to different parts of South and East Africa. And we definitely traveled across the waterways in shackles, but we brought something with us, and I'm glad that that's been passed on generation to generation to generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, is barbecue soul food? I mean, do you consider your restaurant a soul food restaurant?
I mean, I don't consider it soul food, but yeah, it's soul food because, like I said, we started this. You know, we started to go back on what Kim said and Ray said. It all started in Africa and the Caribbean, cooking over open flame and making something happen, and then go all the way back to slavery days to where, you know, cooking briskets and all that, which were throwaway meats at the time. You know, brisket is the chest muscle. You know what I mean? They was giving that to us, and we was making magic out of it. But I'm gonna roll with Kim on that. It's all soul food because I find over the years, sometimes we're ashamed of soul food. And like I said, what healthy food is out there unless you put in your healthy twist like Ray is doing or something like that. If not, it ain't no healthy Mexican food. It ain't no healthy Italian food. It's not no healthy Chinese food. So why, when we say soul food, it's attached so much? And that just trips me out all the time. And sometimes we do it and it trips me out. That is the food, that is your culture, and speak on it and be proud of it. Like she just said, I'm proud of it because that's all we had. You know, when them people worked the fields all day and all week for nothing, and they came in, and that's where Sunday dinner came from. Sunday, they cooked, and that's all they had, and they needed that to fill their soul, to give them the spirit and the hope to go out and work again another 200 or 300 hours a week for nothing. So I'm gonna keep it 100. I love soul food. I love it, like she said, everything in moderation, but just like any other culture food, in moderation. You know, just keep it real. That's our food. Don't be ashamed of it. Everybody else got their foods. We all eat everybody's food. In the South, a lot of people call it Southern cooking, but that's soul food. And everybody eat everybody's food. So don't never be ashamed of your food.
Absolutely.
I feel like I hear a little organ playing behind you. Going to your Baptist hoop. Sound like you're about to preach, but amen.
He's going to say that the doors of the church are open soon.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Carla also got that. She said soul food is the difference between a Negro spiritual and a hymn. And if that's too old of a reference, I think if you've ever heard Jimi Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower versus Bob Dylan's, that's the difference between soul food.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that speaks for itself. Now, I don't want to belabor this point too much, but I do want to pull John in on the conversation. John, you came into Post and Beam with your wife Ronnie, and you really kind of revamped some things and are continuing on that legacy. Is it difficult to push the envelope when it comes to soul food? Are diners reluctant to experiment with new things? What are your thoughts on that?
I think our customer base was a lot more reluctant maybe years ago to experiment, but I think exposure is what kind of opens that up. I remember 2 years ago, I started giving away oysters as a gesture at our bar just to get people to eat raw oysters, and now we have it on our menu. And to think of soul food in a way, I think there's a lot of different interpretations of it. In my experience, I grew up on barbecue and fish fries. That's what my family did every weekend. And there's so many different types of what we call Black food. A lot of us think of it in a way of like what we eat on a Sunday dinner. But that varies from where you're from, man. And I think just exposing people to all the different kinds of Black food and the origins of it is something that people are really getting more open to than they were like 5 years ago. As close as that was, it's a little bit different, So I think it's just changing, man. I think the exposure's changing. I think that everybody is just more knowledgeable of what we do than they used to be. This is like the most open Black cuisine has ever been in my history of being in food. Like I'm pretty young, but I grew up in restaurants and cooking, and this amount of exposure never existed until now. I tell people, especially guys my age, like this is the best time to be a chef. Like this has never been this good of a time to be a chef, man.
Yeah. So I mean, you said something interesting there that I just took note of, which is that it all sort of, in terms of your palate and your idea about soul food, that it depends on where you're from. Now, I moved out to LA pretty recently. I came here from Atlanta, and LA is not the first place that I thought of when I think of soul food. I think of things like rice in Charleston, crabs in Maryland, gumbo in Louisiana, barbecue in St. Louis in Texas. I want to ask Kevin this because you've been at it since 2008. Is there a black is there a black food scene in LA or in California? Is there anything here that black chefs do especially well?
I mean, it kind of faded out, but the people on your panel, I'm old school. All them youngsters you got on your panel right now, it's up to them to bring it back and make. When I grew up in LA and Compton and watched, it was many soul food restaurants, many barbecue restaurants. What people don't understand is that, back in the 40s and the 50s, everybody was migrating to LA and Chicago and places like that from the South. So LA had a huge soul food and barbecue scene, especially Central Avenue. In fact, I'm working on a documentary right now because I, put some respect on LA barbecue, because they always say the regions of barbecue and all that. When I was coming up, we had barbecue from Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, everywhere. Central Avenue, the jazz clubs and all that, late night cooking in front of the clubs. They always say that's happened started someplace else. I don't know. I can argue that because they was doing that in the 40s out here in LA on Central Avenue. And if you're coming from downtown and going down Central, by the time you got to Long Beach, you probably passed combined 30 soul food barbecue restaurants back in the day that just disappeared. You got, like he said, you got a lot of young chefs now that got pride in what they're doing. They love what they're doing and they're bringing it back. And you still have an audience out there for that. And like John said, it's I always say when I opened up Bloodsows, it was the perfect time in late 07, 08, because that was the time, the foodies started coming out. Yelp and Chowhound and Food TV was getting big, and it hasn't gotten smaller, it's gotten bigger, and so many other people are being introduced to your food. But I mean, back South, you never had a problem with it because they were always cooking soul food in the South. Like I said, some people call it soul food, some people call it Southern cuisine, but in some states like California or, New York and all that, it was something new later on, not, in the 70s or the 80s. But like I said, a lot of the restaurants faded out in LA, and you got some young OGs like the ones you got on this panel right now that are putting in work and that are bringing it back. And I'm just proud of them, and I'm proud to work with them. And, I just think, it's like, I can't even say what they can do. They got years, and I mean, they can bring it back. They have to be the ones that bring it back. And I'm proud to know all of them.
Yeah. Kim, what was it like bringing a dish from Nashville to LA?
I can't say I was the first to bring it from Nashville. Nashville hot chicken has been popping up on menus over the last, I would say, 25 to 30 years. But, I'm thankful for my father, who grew up in the original restaurant, Princess Barbecue Hot Chicken Shack. The Barbecue Hot Chicken Shack was its original name. My father had it under his hat, meaning he had the know-how to be able to come to LA and start cooking it up for people because he knew people would like it. And that was back in the early 80s and the late 70s. Not interested in necessarily opening up a business with it because he was a school teacher full-time back then. But it didn't surprise me that when it was my turn to come to Los Angeles, it took time to get the business model together, get the blessing from the family, because that was really, really important to me to have my Aunt Andre, Prince Jeffrey's nod. And she said, Kim, go west. You got my blessing. And I took that blessing and I tucked it under my hat. And I came on out here in 2013 to get Hotville started. I didn't give up my day job because I had to have a way of paying for it. And I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the food space that it takes us, meaning, African-American folks, it takes a little bit longer to get things off the ground. So my launch didn't start off as fast as I wanted to. Yes, I wanted to be recognized as definitely hot chicken royalty coming from Nashville, bringing the authentic Nashville style hot chicken to LA. there were some others that got here before me, and they had it on their menus. I have to always give props to my big friend, Johnny Rayzone from Howland Ray's, because he started his pop-ups and got his food truck going, and we supported each other. And then since then, there's a lot of other places that have brought it, of putting Nashville hot chicken on their menus. But for me, it's a legacy project. It's something that my family, we've inspired so many people across the world. I always say that it seems like Nashville hot chicken is just about on every continent, wouldn't you say? It ain't in our Antarctica that I know of yet, but it'd be a cool place to eat it. So it's important for me and the Prince family to get his just due recognition. Again, my Aunt Andre is doing her part in Nashville. They've got their 3 locations, a new one in South Carolina as well. We've got Hotville chicken here in the Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw area. And then we've got the Doolinville food truck, which is a collaborated food truck that's doing soul food and Hotville chicken on 4 wheels. So it's a legacy project. I'm very, very proud. Can't y'all tell? When people come to Hotville, they get the hey y'alls and all that good twang. But I want to make sure that people understand that they're getting true inspired Nashville hot chicken made by the Prince family, and that would be me. But I love when I see it pop on, when I see it on other people's menus. Do I try it? Yeah, of course I'm gonna try it. And then after that, I usually ask to speak to the chef that made it, and I want to know, it's like, why do you have it on your menu? Do you know the story? Do you know who Uncle Thornton is? Let me tell you about him, because the majority of the places that I've gone to in California and Los Angeles, if I may be frank, a lot of the people that have Nashville on their menus ain't been to Nashville yet. So I would tell them, get a plane ticket and get on out there so you can see what it's all about, because it's not just spicy, hot chicken to burn somebody's face off. It's got to have flavor. It's got to be marinated right, and there's spice in every aspect of the process of getting it from the marinade to your plate.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I hadn't planned on asking this, but I feel like I would be remiss to not get you to tell the story about your uncle and the true origin of Nashville hot chicken. Do you mind, Kim?
Absolutely. Oh, no, not at all. If I can get this thing to stay in my ear. But no, I like to ask people, it's been printed and quoted so many times. I like to ask people, you tell me the story. Because it's everywhere. Like, why do you have Nashville hot chicken on your menu? But my great Uncle Thornton and his brothers were all very tall, dark, and handsome men. My great granddaddy was one of them. His name was Boyd Prince. His little brother, Alfonso Prince. And they were not the most faithful of men to the ones that they were wedded to. They had a little circle of long eyelash blinking women that hung around him. So the story goes that he had a lot of women in his life, and one of them, a mistress, got back at him by putting cayenne pepper and a paste all over his fried chicken, which was his favorite meal, but he liked it. So it was a vengeful tale that burned his tail, but he liked it. That quote is on my wall. And it's a process of frying chicken that my great uncle Alfonso Prince is actually credited for. He doesn't get his name noticed all the time, but Alfonso Prince is the one who finessed the process of how to fry the chicken and make it spicy all the way to the bone. They call it the barbecue hot chicken shack because there's a process that we still use now that makes the chicken actually fall off the bone. So it's not barbecue, but it's fried, and the spices were not, as far as back as I can remember. And I'm right behind you, Mr. Kevin. I'm right behind you. So all my years of being around Nashville hot chicken, it was never this extra crispy crust, breading or exterior coating on original Nashville hot chicken. It was actually quite soft, to be honest. And so, it's because we've changed the type of equipment to be able to produce with volume is why you have more of a crispier texture to the outer layer of the chicken. But great great Uncle Thornton and Boyd and Alfonso and John and Will Prince, and then their sisters, Maggie Bess Prince and Mamie Bell and Fannie Mae and their my great great grandmother. They're the ones who actually, the matriarchs, the women in the family, after the brothers started dying off, the women are the ones who have taken it on and have run with it and kept their hands on the plow ever since.
Yeah, that's an amazing family legacy, and it's so exciting to see you, taking over those reins.
1936. 1936 is as far back as we've been able to date it, which is a wonderful thing. That's not to say that hot chicken or spicy fried chicken didn't exist prior to that, but we've been recognized as the first family, and an African-American family at that, to be able to go into the business of doing Nashville hot chicken and open up a hot chicken shack.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this conversation around LA cuisine, LA food, and sort of running restaurants, I feel like would be kind of flat if we didn't talk about all the pressures around foods that Black restaurants and Black communities face, whether it's food sovereignty. Of course, we talked about things like health, just the approach that people have to just Black food in general. Ray, do you want to kind of talk about some of those issues and kind of where your thoughts are and how you've sort of worked with or around them when it comes to Cinqué?
Yeah, thanks, Donovan. So I think, so the first Cinqué pop-up at Porridge and Puffs was a sit-down dinner. But last year was the second one, and due to the pandemic, it was a takeout. People order and they got 4 courses in a bag. But with everything that went down last year, I just didn't feel like pursuing a pop-up for my own benefit. Like, I wanted to do something to address, the fallout from the pandemic. And what I did was one of my friends, Lauren Halsey, the artist, she started this Some of Everything community center, and she was, going to farmers markets and reaching out to produce vendors and farmers and handing out free food boxes to the communities of South Central and Watts. And so I just wanted to devote all the proceeds from that pop-up to her, because I think it's a contemporary manifestation of what the Black Panther Party did back in the early days of its inception, which was provide free food programs, not only to kids and free breakfasts, but feeding the community in general. And I think that in the history, and that is piggybacking on a history of like CSAs that Black farmers did back in the day. And I think that came about like the history of emancipation and the Civil War and what there's this famous Field Order 15 that happened when General Sherman was trying to figure out what to do with 400,000 acres of confiscated land from Southern planters. He went to the community of Black preachers and leaders and asked, "What do you want?" And they were like, "We want you just to give it to us and don't tell us what to do with it. We want food sovereignty. We want to grow food. We want to build communities." I hear a lot of mention about Black Wall Street. Like, there were more than one Black there were Black Wall Streets all over, and more than just one in Oklahoma. Like I just learned that my relatives in Boley, Oklahoma, they, started a bank and had a school. And, like if you read the pages of Edna Lewis's A Taste of Country Cooking, like Freetown was an example of a food, like a group of formerly enslaved people grouping together and providing food for themselves and the community. When there was a hog killing, like they gathered around the seasons and around food. So I think it's important to, when we talk about community, we have to talk about communion, which is food that we're receiving from, the creator, whatever you think the creator is. It could be just as simple as the sun. It comes from the sun. So when you're eating, you're really receiving God's gift. And you can't form community without sharing that food with others. And that's how movements mobilize. As Killer Mike says, you can't plot, plan, strategize without, the dinner and the meal to do it around. People like Leah Chase of Dookie Chase, that's where the civil rights leaders gathered to plan and to organize. So there's a lot of issues around systemic issues about systemic racism, white supremacy that we have to address. But I believe that organizing can't be done without a intentional focus on food being a critical role in bringing people together to make some changes.
Yeah. I never thought about food in that way, but now that you mention it, every sort of significant moment in life where I felt like people in my community were coming together, there was of course always food there. It may have been the first thing that we talked about, when it came to sort of planning and strategizing, what do we want to eat? And that brings me, I think, back to something related to Juneteenth, right? Which is the ways that we celebrate and Black family food traditions. For me, when it comes to like my own family, and I think about celebration and food, there's always one thing, and that's macaroni and cheese. That's my personal favorite. I would love to know if there's any piece of soul food that, makes you feel a sense of community and reminds you of community. Kevin, let's start with you. Is there one dish that really kind of evokes that spirit for you?
Me, it's greens, and it's two greens and a brisket. Because like I said, I go back to when I would get to Texas a couple of days before Juneteenth, and my granny had already started cooking brisket all night. You know what I mean? 15 hours, and I just remember that, and the love and her technique and what she was doing for the family at the time to make this. I mean, my granny cooked, my granny sharecropped, my granny did a lot of different things, and she took pride in it, but she took more pride in cooking for us and, my family coming down from LA and all that. So, I mean, it's so many dishes, but for me, it's brisket and collard greens, because usually if it's soul food or a holiday or whatever, it's not, brisket is more barbecue, more summertime. Of course, there's plenty of soul food things, like Kim said, oxtails. I mean, it's too many to name, but I don't think nobody on this panel would say you can't really sit down and have a real soul food dinner without greens. So,
What about you, John?
Probably mad I said greens because they all wanted to say it.
John?
He took it right out of my mouth, man. I mean, I grew up, man, with three things that make me think of it is collard greens, fried chicken, and spare ribs. My dad was the king of spare ribs. My mom was the queen of fried chicken, and we grew collards right in our backyard my whole life. And so anytime we ever got together, we were always eating collard greens. Every time I smell collard greens, I think of my family, you know? So I think that's just one of those dishes, man. Like, we all know what collard greens are supposed to taste like. And if you make them the wrong way, you know, we'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah. Now, very quickly, Kim and Ray, what are yours?
I'll go first. Collard greens for sure, because of the big pot, and cornbread because you can make it in a big batch, and fried chicken because you can kill the whole bird and feed a family of 8 on it. So the thing about Black folks is we just don't make a plate for ourselves. It's a shareable food where we spread it around. You take some with you to your neighbor's house. When strangers would pass by, I know my mom, she was always feeding a stranger that would just happen to be coming through the neighborhood. Would you like something to eat? So that's what it is for me. Collard greens, because you can make a lot of it. And we grew that in our yard too. Something that a lot of people out here aren't familiar with is like a poke salad. I sure wish I could get my hands on some, but my family grew up with a lot of poke salad, which is another green, but you got to make it right. And then potato salad, if it's made right, you know, you go to the barbecue.
With celery.
Right? But they always ask,
You know what?
who made it?
I'm going to ask y'all about that later, so hold that thought.
Yeah, so those are my 3. Those are definitely my 3.
All right, what do you say, Ray?
I don't know if there's a quick answer, but you know what? Like, there's a dish that I make that, but like, really, I'm from Kansas City and we're a barbecue town. Like, it's always barbecue. And that's, I don't know. Like, one of the reasons why LA is home is because Bloodso's barbecue is here, because it's the closest thing. Like, like, I know at least that I can have some good barbecue that by people who understand, and the greens taste right. And I think that's what, like, what I was trying to get at is, like, soul food is, the reason why it's so difficult to define is because it isn't a monolith. It's you know, as Adrian Miller, the food scholar, says, it's a migratory cuisine. Like, as during that great migration of millions of people fleeing domestic terrorism into the cities, they brought their food traditions with them, and, you know, it changes with the, you know, with where you're at. Like, so I don't know. They do barbecue, like cooking in pits, smoking meat, travel from West Africa, you know, to the South and into cities, and it shapeshift to, you know, geography and, you know, the climate and the ingredients. So, you know, people will argue if you put sugar in cornbread and if you put sauce on your barbecue, but it's like, it doesn't matter. It's right for where it is.
You
like,
put celery in salad? I'm sorry.
So look, Kevin is teasing me, you all, and this gets to my last question. It's been a pleasure really discussing with everybody, but this is key. I just moved here to LA, and I'm going to be throwing sort of a house party, a little kickback for Juneteenth on Saturday. So I need some advice, because I am not a cook, but I do want to feed people. Like you said, we really can't commune without having food. And I'm gonna just step out there and make a potato salad. So I want any tips you all might have about how to not mess it up. I'm talking, you know, how do I have to cook these potatoes? Now, where I'm from, in Columbus, Ohio, we do put celery in a potato salad. Is that a yes? Is that a no? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Kevin, I think you're gonna let me have it. So let's start with you.
No, I ain't gonna let you have it. I mean, like Kim said, everybody got their twist. As long as it's good. When I always say layer your damn flavors. Like, you know, you're not making mashed potatoes, but when you first do your potatoes, you don't want them too soft, but you don't want them hard at all. You want them to be able to mash. But I start mine off. I'm gonna start, and you can go from person to person. When I start them, I start them just like mashed potatoes. You season mashed potatoes, and I season mine with seasoning, salt, and pepper, and that's my first step. And I taste every step of my potato salad.
Okay, Kim.
Woo. My knee-jerk reaction was to tell you just call me and I'll make it for you and send it over. That would be my first dish if I've never made it before. I don't know that I would serve that. However, if you get in trouble, I would also, I like what Kevin said, you do have to season your potatoes, but I always start mine with a vinegar base and allow the vinegar, sugar, salt and pepper, and celery seed or celery salt to marinate with chopped bell peppers and onions for about a day or two. I just let it soak up so it gets all that flavor in there, and then I add that to my potato salad, to my potatoes.
Ooh.
There's some other stuff that you got to add in there.
Okay,
Woo.
that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, you got your work cut out for you if it's your first time, though.
I know, like I don't want anybody saying who made the potato salad. You know, with that little face that you get, and then you fold the plate up and throw it away.
No, or you end up with a big bowl of potato salad that's still sitting and sweating, or you don't want that either. So.
Yeah. What do you say, John? Do you have any tips on preparing this, or if I shouldn't do a potato salad, is there something else that I can do?
Yeah, man, I'll piggyback for Kevin and say layer your flavors, brother. Like, please layer your flavors. I mean, and like Kim said, we're not there. So if it's your first time, man, ain't much we can do to help you. But the key, brother, is like you having a soulful experience. You're trying to do soul food. People are not just there to digest food. They there to digest the vibes and the energy. So play some good music, man, if you really want them to distract them. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's more than just a potato salad for you, brother.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. And Ray, you got like maybe like a prayer for me and like a benediction that we can say?
Yeah, no. I would, what I like in potato salad is like tender potatoes. I like what is it? Hard boiled eggs. I like a little crunch. Whether it's celery, whether it's, I love fresh herbs in there. Like, you got like all this heavy stuff, but then like throwing some fresh chopped up like scallions or something in there. Just, I like a mayo base. I like, some people like more mustard, but I like a little more mayo, and I add like mustard powder. So it still has that mustard like kick, but I don't know, just, I do what everybody else does. Watch a YouTube video, like, you'll learn how to do it. Like,
potato salad.
Donovan, you have to have an auntie, a good old godmother, a granny, somebody, a senior at church, somebody in a knitting circle.
Somebody.
It's got to be some good old mother out there that can help you out. You can call me.
Yeah.
I'll definitely help. Try to give you some tips. I just make it back.
Like John said, have some good music. Don't have no damn Elvis Presley playing, and don't put no raisins in potato salad, D.
No raisins.
No raisins.
No raisins.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement. Never put raisins in potato salad. That'll be the final word for the night. On that note, I want to thank you all for joining us. This has been an amazing conversation that's covered so much. I wish everybody a wonderful, happy, and free Juneteenth. And I can't wait to see you at your restaurants. And with that, Clint, we'll go back to you.
All right. What a great conversation. Thank you, Donovan. Thank you to those great restaurateurs. Definitely get out and support those amazing restaurants. Also, allow me to thank our partners, starting with our presenting partner, City National Bank. This evening would not have been possible without you. Thank you to our charity partner, Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. For more information and to donate, please visit www.lafoodbank.org. For tickets and more information on our upcoming Food Bowl events, please visit lafoodbowl.com. That list includes 2 events next week. Join us Wednesday, June 23rd for our next Food Bowl virtual forum. This one will address the issues of food waste, accessibility, and the relationship to agriculture. Plus, be sure to grab your tickets now for Food Bowl's Night Market Cinema, an exclusive evening celebrating the late gifted storyteller, explorer, and chef Anthony Bourdain. Join us as we enjoy an early screening of the film Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain. This is all ahead of the theatrical release in July. I'm Clint Schaff with the Los Angeles Times. We're so glad you joined us, and I hope you had as much fun and learned as much as we did. Thank you and good night.
There are a lot of things that I've learned over the years in business, but trust is really the most important aspect because it teaches you to rely upon the other people that you're working with. And City National Bank has been an integral part of our team. They are that key financial advisor that has helped us be successful at Foley Family Wines.